Someone said this actually. It's really interesting. They were like, Arthur is definitely Black, like his entire family, and like that entire show is definitely based around people of color. And
Hey, Buster was the one white friend.
yes,
I think that's it. Yeah, he was
yes.
definitely black. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us for another episode for the Black Student Success Podcast, where we bring you insight and guidance from successful Black professionals. My name is Selvin, and of course, we appreciate the support. Also, we want to remind you that our Black Student Success Scholarship is now open. So if you are a Black high school senior, please be sure to check the link in the description so that you can apply. Applications are due on April 30th. So today we're excited to bring another installment of our student series where we interview students to talk about their experiences on campus and actually getting into college, just to kind of give you some insight. So today we have Deborah on, who is a sophomore at Loyola Marymount University. So she's going to talk about her experience, what it's like being there. That is a school on the West Coast. And so if you are planning on looking at schools in the area, this interview might give you a little bit more perspective, at least with that school. So Deborah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on the show. So we like to start off the show the same way to, give yourself an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience by answering, who is Deaborah Gebreyesus?
Wow, that's a really big question. I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. I'm 19. I'm a sophomore at LMU. I love books, reality TV, TikTok. My zodiac sign's a Leo. I have a zodiac sign tapestry behind me.
Nice.
I love astrology. And yeah, I think that's how I did like introduce myself. And yeah.
Okay, perfect. Shout out to the Leos. I'm a Leo myself. So
Right.
yeah, but I don't like the attention. So so I think that's pretty funny. Okay, so tell us, what was your childhood like? What was it like, for you growing up in Seattle, up to the point where you actually got into school?
Well, it was definitely interesting. Both of my parents are Ethiopian immigrants, so I'm actually a first generation college student. So growing up between two different cultures was definitely an experience. I've gone to Catholic school my entire life, so I've been used to the predominantly white institution setting as a minority and a person of color. But I grew up really happy. I grew up in a loving, supporting home, and growing up in Seattle, a very liberal area, and just sort of rain, gray. I think everyone associates Seattle with rain. But yeah, my childhood was happy, free, and school was amazing. I had a really great high school experience. And yeah, I had a really great childhood in Seattle. I loved being raised in Seattle.
Nice, nice. Any highlights from your childhood that you can remember?
Um, yeah, I really enjoyed, well, I mean, high school was so recent. I'm only 19, but I did a lot in high school. I love leadership, and so I was ASB president and captain of the cheer squad, and I led freshman orientation, and doing those activities built my identity. And building your identity when you're so young, I think that everyone's looking for something to define them. Especially, I mean, I could say that's true for myself. I was really looking for something that I could latch onto and something that would describe myself. So I was like, okay, I feel like I'm a leader, and I love leading people, and I love working with people. So I really loved high school. I think high school made it so much easier for me to transition to college, and I went to a really great high school in Seattle, Bishop Blanchette, and they provided me with an environment that supported me. And through that, I was able to prepare myself for college a lot easier. So,
Nice, nice. So leading into that, that I'm sure led into, the majors that you chose. So why don't you talk about, I know that you mentioned that you double majored.
yeah.
What were those majors, and then why did you choose them?
Yeah, so I'm a marketing business management double major. And like I said before, I really love leadership. So, and I love interpersonal communication. So I sort of combine the two. I want to learn how to be a really great leader. Leadership to me is making sure everyone's heard. it's not just about you. And no matter what, like how much you want the spotlight to just be on you, you have to make sure that everyone's voice and everyone's demographic is represented equally. And so I want to learn how to do that the best way I can. So I thought management is going to be a great addition to my marketing major. And with marketing, all of my jobs when I was younger have been in retail. So I'm used to the business environment of selling. So I really thought that was interesting, and I might as well take on something that, I'm already familiar with, and I've grown up in that type of environment. So yeah, I really enjoy the two majors so far. But I think it's important to note that I didn't come to those majors quite easily. Like I didn't make that decision easily. I feel like when I present myself in such a way, I make it seem as if it was so easy choosing my majors. It was not. I'm still very much on the fence, but these are the two I've come up with for now. So I'm happy with my decision.
Nice, nice. And I would actually think the same thing. The way that you're able to explain that, it sounds like, okay, I got this. I was able to, pick this out from, all of my experiences, and it was just that easy. So why don't you talk about, maybe that path kind of leading up into those majors, maybe what difficulties that you kind of run into when trying to decide on something?
Oh, yeah. So I think not enough people talk about how hard it is to pick a college major. Growing up, especially with Ethiopian parents and immigrant parents in general, college is, it's the next step in life. It's not really a choice. But thankfully, I genuinely wanted college to be my next step. So I went into LMU originally as a communications major, because I applied with my friend, and we were both choosing our majors, and he was like, okay, well, let's be communication majors. It'll be cool if we have the same major. And so I was like, okay, just put it down on my application. Didn't really think about it. And I went and I was like, okay, this doesn't really fit what I want to do. I think I had this envision that since I'm in LA, I would work at BuzzFeed or like some fun online magazine, and everything would just be great. But I really sat down and just sort of had to envision what I wanted. And that was hard. I swung back and forth. I wanted to do political science for a moment, but then I was like, I don't really want to go into politics, and I don't see myself doing anything within that realm. So I added it as a minor. I think minors are good to have something for yourself. But then I was like, okay, maybe entrepreneurship, finance, but I'm not really into finance. So it was definitely a process to get to marketing and business management. And I think that's okay. I think people need to really normalize talking about the struggle of choosing a major, especially your entire life. You don't really get to make huge decisions for yourself. Your life is pretty much planned out for you, either by school or by your family. And so college, I had this so much freedom. It was almost suffocating in a sense. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. Someone just sits you down one day after 18 years of being told what to do, and they're like, okay, now choose what you want to do for the rest of your life. It's daunting. So yeah, I'm happy with where I am now, but it was definitely a process to get there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're putting out the fact that exploration of kind of figuring out what you want to do is something that's normal, something that might feel a little bit scary, but it's something a lot of students deal with, and having that open mind kind of going into it, and having that realization, okay, this wasn't really the best fit. Now I have to put in the work and kind of figure out what it is that's actually going to be a good fit. And so at least you've come to the point where you've found something that works. You are doing activities that actually work with it. And, even if you haven't figured out or not, as far as what that next step is going to be after you're done, you're at least in a space that is helping you grow.
Yes,
Absolutely. Perfect. So now, out of all those activities that you did in high school, do you feel like any of those actually related to business or marketing, if you were to kind of look back on hindsight?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely my leadership positions in high school helped me come to an easier conclusion of at least what subject I want to study. I had a lot of teachers. I had a great support system within the teachers of my high school. A lot of them told me that they envisioned me being like a CEO of a company, because I am working on it, but I don't really take orders very I don't like being ordered around. I like being in control. So they're like, I really see you as like a CEO or a manager of something. And I've never really thought of myself as a CEO. I kind of never really thought that far ahead. And so I just sort of took their advice and took what I thought my strengths were. And I sort of combined that. So I think everything that I did in high school led me to come to the conclusion of marketing and business management. But more specifically, my leadership positions helped me come to that decision. I love talking with people. I love working with people. Marketing is a lot of teamwork. So it's just a combination of things that, made me come to the conclusion to major in those two.
Nice, nice. All right, so let's talk about, actually getting it. You did mention that you got with your friend and you're like, okay, let's choose this major. What other pieces of that, admissions experience, when it came to looking for schools, actually applying to schools, especially coming from a first gen student, what was that admission experience like for you?
Yeah, so I was really lucky. I had a family friend who helped me out with my college applications in terms of keeping me on a schedule and making sure that I planned out, because college applications are not something that you can procrastinate. I have a terrible habit of procrastinating, and college applications are really something you need to time out. So I was really fortunate in that sense to have someone to help me. Um, but the college admissions experience, especially, going through it as someone who I'm the first in my family. I don't even have cousins who went to college. It was incredibly scary, at first, thinking, because I've always been sheltered, I've always been at home. How am I going to take care of myself? What kind of environment am I looking for? I don't even know who I am. How do I know what I'm going to like? So I think in terms of the admissions experience, the college essay, what I've learned is that you have to choose a college based on what's best for you outside of ranks, where your friends are going, even the location, like what you think would be a good location. It really is based on the institution. For me, I chose LA because there's something magnetic about the city and something that's so charming in its appeal. And so I was immediately drawn to LA ever since I was a kid. And so I chose LMU because it's a smaller school. And so I knew that, being in smaller schools my entire life, I want something where the teachers will give me that one-on-one attention. I thrive on it. And I know that's an environment in which I can succeed in. So knowing yourself and knowing what's best for your learning and your advancement as an intellectual, that's the most important thing of the college admissions process. In terms of applications, it's okay to ask for help. I know my high school had a ton of workshops where they would help us write our college essays and help us with our application. My heart goes out to the class of 2021. I feel like I should mention, I cannot imagine the stress that they're going through. I was so stressed out senior year, just sort of keeping everything together and doing that from home. They're really miracle workers. So I'll leave it with this, just trust the process and trust yourself. You'll end up at a college that's the best fit for you. You just have to really give it a chance. So just trust the process, trust yourself. And it's scary, but you'll get through it. I feel like if I really have this convincing that if I got through it, anyone can get through it. Because I was the biggest scaredy cat senior year. I genuinely didn't think I could leave home. I did not think I could do college, and I did. So
Yeah, you're 2 years in and already kind of finding your way. So I think the best point that you made from that was really being true to yourself and really trusting yourself with, what's good for you, as opposed to kind of looking at everybody else, where they're going, what food places that they're going to be nearby once they actually get to campus. Those, what you would think is trivial things, once you actually get there. But once you pinpoint those things, like I love the fact that you acknowledge school size and how making sure that keeping that consistent will give you the best opportunities in terms of just being able to focus. So so just really being true to yourself in that process, and like you said, trusting the process, because it can be scary. There can be a lot of unknowns, but there are pieces that you do have control over. So thank you for that. Now you're on LMU's campus. What has that experience been like in terms of academically, socially? Go ahead and, talk a little bit about that.
So I was only on LMU's campus for about 5 or 6 months, but I I loved it. Like I said before, LA has this magnetic appeal that I'm really just like drawn to. I love the vibrancy of the city. It's so lively. So going to college in LA was really quite an experience for me, and it's something I will always cherish. Academically, I love that LMU. It's challenging. The transition from high school academics to college academics is definitely not one to be taken lightly. But challenges, and this is something I've just learned, challenges are, you have to look at challenges as a new experience to grow. Um, my thinking has completely been twisted, turned around in all of my classes. And, in just like, I've only been out of high school like a year and a half, I'm a completely different person now than I was in high school. And that's all due to the classes that I've taken in college. They've, widened my horizons. I think my favorite class I took was a Black cultural arts class my freshman year of college. I've never taken a Black history anything class. Never really learned about African history or Black cultural arts. Going to predominantly white institutions, it was all focused on Europe. So learning about that and learning about how certain stereotypes came to be, learning about the history of our people was so rewarding. I think that's why it's still to this day my favorite class that I've ever taken, because it fosters a connection with the material. And because of that, last year when the Black Lives Matter movement had sort of a resurgence, I was able to bring my knowledge from that class into the discourse that we were having surrounding Black Lives Matter and police brutality. So I think that in and of itself is what makes college so worth it and so rewarding. And socially, I love the LMU campus in terms of social aspect. It's a small enough campus where you can meet someone new every day, but you can still see the people that you know just walking around. I joined a sorority right before I left. I'm in Kappa Alpha Theta on campus. And I really love that because when I left, being a freshman, I didn't get to make like that many connections. And so having that just gave me a lifeline to campus. Like I was able to stay connected to LMU. So I really enjoyed that. I'm also on Black Student Union and African Student Association. And so that cultivated a really big support group within the Black community at LMU, which I think is incredibly important to have at predominantly white institutions. So that's my take on the academic and social aspects of LMU.
Nice, nice. As far as that class, I'm sure it was, like you said, not only rewarding, but being able to make connections, maybe even to things that you either heard or grew up learning about within your family. If this was like kind of like the first time that you've taken, a course that's really directed towards, Black culture and learning about, our history and everything. So, it sounds like all at once, even in the 5 months that you were, actually on campus, you gained a lot of experience and a lot of the different connections that you made, either with the students, the staff, just the campus itself, the surrounding happenings, with protests and things like that. I'm sure that was a lot. Hopefully not too overwhelming, but just enough to keep you going and keep you motivated to do the best that you can while you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So now you talked a little bit about being a Black student on campus. You talked about the groups that you're involved with that have brought you a lot of support. Were there any other aspects of that you want to talk about when it comes to being Black at LMU or in general at a predominantly white institution?
Yeah, so like I said before, I went to Catholic school in Seattle. So I'm used to the whole like predominantly white, being the only Black student in a room type of thing. And I think that in terms of, and my concept of race is definitely, I think, a bit different than others. My parents are Ethiopian immigrants, so I didn't really know much about race until I got to be like maybe a junior in high school. I did not pay attention to race at all. And that's that like growing up in that bubble, I really regret that in a sense because it did not prepare me enough to go into the real world as a Black woman and, really know like my people's struggles and like, what I'm going to face when I leave home. And so in terms of being a Black student at LMU, LMU has a great support system for Black students. But like I said, being in BSU and African Student Association definitely gives me an environment where I can talk to people who understand what I'm going through a little bit better than my white counterparts and peers would. So that in and of itself is incredibly important to have that sort of support group and that foundation. I'm still learning about race. I think all of us are still learning about race and race in America. And I love those discussions. I love that discourse. It's partly why I'm a political science minor. So being Black at predominantly white institutions has taught me so much about myself and my setting. But having a support system through BSU and African Student Association also taught me a lot about myself. And it's great to have people who understand exactly what you're going through. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I can definitely attest to kind of, growing up in that bubble. Like I grew up in a Caribbean household, so that that aspect of race, it doesn't develop, as quickly, as if you were, kind of born here, or just kind of growing up in a Black American family, if that makes sense. What advice would you give to somebody who might also kind of be growing up in that bubble and having those later realizations of, how, the race relations within the country are?
My advice would, and I know it's a bit redundant and overdone, and it might not be for everyone, but when I figured out, I had an experience my senior year of high school where a student called me the N-word. And I was so confused because I'd never been called the N-word in my entire life. And I didn't know, I understood the gravity of it, obviously, but I didn't understand why he would call me the N-word or why he would even say that in that sense. And so the first thing I did was read. I read so many books about race in America, my favorite being White Rage. It's a book about how Black political advancement is often met with the counteractions of white politicians trying to oppress that with different movements and different blockades throughout history and time. And so when I was learning about race, I wasn't in a situation where I could go to my parents and, ask them, because they also didn't understand the concept of race. There really isn't any race in Ethiopia. They all look the same. It's more rooted in tribalism and in those types of conflicts. But I wasn't in a situation where I could go and ask them, what does it mean to be Black in America? So I read and I looked it up and I did research. I think in our time, we are so fortunate to have so many resources that give us information into race, that give us information on race. So I just read and I researched and I, took that class because I wanted to learn more about Black people in our advancement in our history. So that would be my advice. Just read, research, have discussions. I think political discussions, even though it's sort of taboo in our culture, I think they're incredibly important. And I think 2020 gave us that. It really was a time where we can't just set this aside. We have to have these conversations. So I really love that about the year. Even though there wasn't much positive about the year, I really love that people came together and they started talking about politics. I think it's so interesting to talk about that.
Good, good. Yeah. We're definitely fortunate to have access to so much information, whether it's, digital or printed or whatever the case is definitely out there. And you were able to find your way, just from grasping as much information as possible and really kind of developing your own perspective. And, even if that is developing now, you've gotten to the point where you can encourage these conversations and you can bring a unique perspective to that, and hopefully, leaving everybody with something to kind of think about, after being done. So Deborah, thank you for that. Now, any advice for any high school seniors, sophomores, juniors, whoever who are thinking about pursuing college? Any pieces of advice that you would give to them as far as what steps to take when going during that process?
Yeah. So my best advice would be to prepare. It comes a lot sooner than you think it would. I didn't even think about college, freshman, sophomore year of high school. I was just enjoying my life, living the teen years. And I think junior year was when my parents sat me down. They're like, Deborah, you need to start thinking about college. So I think in terms of that, just prepare. You want to go into college admission, college application season, knowing where you want to go, or at least having an idea of where you want to apply. And I guess in terms of, I guess I should have added this when you asked me about college admissions. This is something I really want to put out there. A rejection from a college is not, it does not define you as a person. College admissions, I think, is, this might be controversial to say, but I think it literally is just putting names in a hat and just drawing a random name. I mean, some people just like, you wouldn't even believe the type of people that, or not, and not in that sense, but more just it's so random who they choose to go to college. Someone could have the exact same application as you, and one person will get in and the other person won't. So there were like no differences in their application. So it really is so random. Rejection is not a definition of who you are. It should not define you. You just sort of get up, dust yourself off, and move on. Um, and in terms of looking at colleges and pursuing that, I think college is so important. So, some people might be on the fence of whether or not they want to go to college. It's a really big investment. I like to look at college as an investment. It makes me feel better about, the tuition fees.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that college is so important. And not only that, it's incredibly rewarding. College has given me, in the short time that I've been in college, I've only been here like a year and a half. I've grown and I've learned so much. Just that. And I don't think you can really put a price on knowledge. So I really encourage people, if they're looking at college or thinking about whether or not they should go to college, I would encourage it. Education is so incredibly important. And yeah, my inspiration for that is Michelle Obama. I was so like, when I was younger, I did not even want to think about college. It was so daunting. And watching Michelle Obama, I was really fortunate to grow up with her. When I was growing up and having her as a role model, she stressed the importance of going to college and education, especially for Black women. So she is my number one icon, my inspiration.
There you go. Shout out to Michelle Obama there. All right. So thank you. Thank you for that. That's definitely really good advice. Especially the one about the rejection letters, just making sure that you're not letting that define you. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. So, you probably weren't meant to go to that school for whatever reason, and there's just better things that are on the horizon for you. So thank you for that. Now, before we wrap up, let's just learn a little bit more about Deborah, in terms of, as her as a student now. With the 5 to 6 months that you're on campus, is there like a tradition, that LMU has that you, either, experience even just for a little bit that you want to highlight that's there?
Yeah, the only one that I can think of right now, it might seem trivial, but the tree lighting ceremony for Christmas.
Yeah.
LMU is Jesuit, so we have this huge Christmas tree that goes in like where there's a boardwalk with palm trees and like a chapel on the other side, and the chapel's gorgeous. And there's a huge Christmas tree that goes up in the middle of that. And we have a tree lighting ceremony where everyone just kind of gathers and they serve hot chocolate, and we just watch the tree be lit. And freshman year, I was so homesick all of the time, but Christmas was when I was like, okay, California is way better at Christmas time than Seattle, because it's like 65 degrees, sunny, and this tree lighting ceremony was so. I just remember being so happy because I think like a switch, I just get so much happier at the holidays. So that's a good memory that I have on campus. And that's like my favorite tradition that I experienced in my 5, 6 months on campus.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, I do remember that. That is definitely probably one of the highlights of the year. And now, lastly, top 3 memes. There's a lot that are out there, especially coming from 2020.
Yeah.
And then just even before then. But what would you say are your favorite ones right now?
Okay, that's so hard. I'm a huge fan of TikTok. I love TikTok. It has become an addiction over quarantine. So I think any TikTok video I think is so funny. I also love Twitter. In high school, before like TikTok became popular, Twitter was sort of where everyone would go to find their jokes and their memes. My favorite meme is from like I think 2017, so it's a little old, but it's the Arthur meme. I just remember laughing at those so incredibly hard. I don't even understand why. It's like their faces were so sassy, and like someone said this actually. It's really interesting. They were like, Arthur is definitely Black, like his entire family, and like that entire show is definitely based around people of color. And I don't know why, but that just like made me love the show even more. So every time it would be like Arthur's like he's making like a confused face, or like there's one with his fist. I don't even remember. 2017 was a weird time, but I just remember laughing at that so hard. Another one would be there's this, it's also old. It's like from 2018, and it's this white guy blinking really sassily. I don't know if you people even remember. He's kind of like very like offended, and it would just the captions that would go with that would be so funny. So most of it's from Twitter, but I can't choose a TikTok video. There's so many, but those are my favorite memes just from Twitter.
Perfect. Yeah, hey, Buster was the one white friend.
Yes.
I think that's it. Yeah. He was
Yes.
definitely black. So no, the fist, the Arthur fist was probably my favorite out of of all of those that came out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that spans over a lot of people's childhood, I would say. So that's awesome. Well, Deborah, that's all I got for you. Any last words before we wrap this up?
Um, oh wow, I wish I had like an inspirational quote to a Maya Angelou quote about not only living, but to thrive and survive and to do it with passion, compassion, humor, and style. It's my leading words.
There you go. Yeah, your MO. That's what's up. So, Deborah, thank you for your time. Thank you for your perspective. This is definitely been great to have you on the show. Thanks to everybody who's been listening. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And we're also on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's at InQuire Hire. And please visit our website, inquirehire.com. We've definitely got a great wealth of information there. So until next time, peace.